Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm glad you could make it. Today I want to talk a little bit about a subject that a lot of people try to avoid like the plague. Probate. When a person dies in the state of Massachusetts, their estate, their assets, everything has to be probated unless certain circumstances are present. The information for this is all on the Massachusetts government website, but I thought I would go over it with you a little bit to kind of help you clarify things, make it a little easier for you. I'm going to talk about what probate is and why it matters, the types of probate in Massachusetts because there's more than one, the step-by-step probate process in the correct order, selling real estate during probate can be very tricky, essential forms, a checklist, and a timeline that you must adhere to, and some tips for seniors and the next steps that you have to take. Being a senior myself, I've come across a lot of ways to keep my life in order, and just when it comes down to it, trying to figure out what you want to leave to people or how you want things handled can be very hard to do. I mean, you change your mind as you get older sometimes. But with probate, you get some help from the law. Now, probate is the legal process to validate a will, pay debts and taxes, and distribute assets. It's handled always by probate and family court in Massachusetts, and the process will depend on the estate complexity, assets, and whether there is a valid will or not. You'd be surprised how many people don't have a will. Now, the first type is informal probate, and this would be streamlined and handled by a magistrate only. It's faster if there's no disputes, but if there are, they can handle them to an extent. This would take into effect personal property such as jewelry, furniture, clothing, items that they, treasured when they were young or when they were older. It's something that needs to be passed down correctly. Now, formal probate would have to be used when you have property, such as real estate, investments, assets beyond a normal small estate. That needs to be court supervised, and it's used especially when there's disputes. Late and limited formal. That is if you haven't filed probate within the first 3 years of the decedent's death. That's for estates with long delays, if you're out of the country, etc. You have limited authority for that. Voluntary administration would be if it's a very simple small personal property estate, you can assign yourself as the voluntary administrator. So determining the type of probate can be a little tricky sometimes. This is where, again, I also tell you to contact an attorney. You have to check for an original will and a list of the assets the person had, real estate, accounts, and personal property. The will has to be a certified will. It should not be just written on a piece of paper, and you'd be surprised how many people do that. You have to consider that there may be disputes. Maybe there's missing heirs, people you haven't seen in 20 years, but they're in the will to receive something, small or big, it doesn't matter. A handwritten will require probate, definitely, and that will be formal probate. You have to assess whether the estate qualifies for voluntary administration. Is it a small estate? Do they just have personal items? Then that would be for an informal. So step 2 would be to gather the documents and the information. This is probably the hardest part. I can tell you right off the bat. Looking for documents, if they're not kept in order, is very difficult, which is why I tell everybody keep them in a box. Keep it locked, either with a code or a key, and tell your family this is where everything is, and this is how you get into it. Otherwise, you'll be looking for weeks. Thanks, Mom. You have to have the original will. There's no two ways about it. If there isn't a will, you still need a certified death certificate. And by certified, I mean it has to come right from the health department. They will determine the cause of death. They will have it all in the death certificate, the time, the date, the location, everything. If you have an individual that had assets such as real estate, a vehicle, bank accounts, annuities, retirement accounts, etc., you will need an individual certificate of death and not a copy, an original. so you will have to request as many as you need from the health department at that time. You need a list of the heirs and the beneficiaries with their contact information. Again, this might be an issue. You might not know where they live now. You might not have an updated phone or address. That can be definitely a difficult thing to do. You have to try your best, no matter what. You need an inventory of their assets, so you have to start. There's a form on the probate website that will show you exactly how to do this. You fill out the form, and that's where the inventory goes. It needs to be turned into the court. You have to have all real estate, bank accounts, investments, etc. on it. Anything the person owned. I don't care if it's a tiny little ring, it has to be on there. You have to have a list of their debts and known creditors, because that is going to be published, so that the debtors can come forward and say, okay, this is what they owed me, and I want to get paid. If they don't, they're out of luck. You have to have recent tax returns, which would be probably the last 2 to 3 years. Again, an attorney can help you with that. And the funeral expenses. Once you've gotten all that together, and if you're still reasonably sane, you're going to go to steps 3 and 4. You're going to file the petition and notify the parties. You're going to fill in the appropriate petitions with the family court and probate court. Informal or formal, it depends on what you're doing. You're going to submit the original will, again, original, and the death certificate, a certified death certificate, with the petition. You're going to provide formal notice, it's also called a citation, to heirs, beneficiaries, and known creditors per Massachusetts rules. They usually post in the paper, and it runs for approximately 6 to 8 weeks, depending on the situation. Step 5 and 6 is the appointment and the inventory. Now, the court appoints a personal representative, also called an administrator or an executor. It could be you, it could be somebody, an uncle, a son, it doesn't matter. The court will appoint it, especially for formal probate. The personal representative then prepares a full inventory. Again, we just talked about the inventory. It's not going to be easy, especially if they have things of value. Even if it's not real estate definitely, but you might need to get an appraisal. You want to know what that vase on the shelf is worth. It could be worth $6 or it could be worth $6,000. You have to give an accounting of the value as best that you can to the best of your knowledge and with the help of an appraiser. The personal representative duties include collecting the assets, securing the property, meaning it's locked up, it's not going anywhere, nobody's getting their hands on it till this all is done, and manage estate affairs. In other words, if the court asks for something, you have to come up with it. If you have to find another creditor, that's your job. So step 7 would be the final step, and that's pay the debts, claims, and taxes. Yep, unfortunately, taxes follow you after death. You're not getting away with it that easy. You have to notify the creditors and allow the statutory required period for claims for Massachusetts law government timelines. Everything changes. It all depends on the latest law that they've written as far as timing is concerned, but typically it's 6 to 8 weeks, sometimes 3 months. It depends on how many creditors there are. They all have to be paid. All valid debts have to be paid. Funeral expenses, administration expenses, and any taxes that are owed. You have to keep a detailed accounting of the payments and receipts to include in the final accounting. The court is going to want to see every single thing you paid, a receipt for it, and it all has to be turned in to the final accounting so that you can close probate. After they're all paid, then you have to file the closing documents with the court. You have to give them the closing statement, the discharge for the personal representative to seek it, the account and the inventory all has to be turned in, all the payments have to be turned in, all the receipts have to be turned in. At that point, you can obtain the court to discharge to conclude your responsibilities. You can't just say, I'm done, that's it, I turned everything in. The court has to approve it. So if probate includes real estate, that's a whole different ball of wax. You need a license to sell often. It might be required by the probate court. The process is you file a petition for sale, and sometimes you have to submit a purchase and sale agreement, which you can get from your broker. Notify the interested parties. In other words, if there's any heirs, if there are people that might have claim to the property, and you have to seek court approval, a decree on petition for sale, in order to go ahead and list and sell that property prior to probate being complete. The only exception would be if the will grants the personal representative a power of sale. In other words, they put in the will that you have the right to sell that property regardless of what is going on with probate. Court approval may not be necessary, but you still have to consult an attorney. I know I sound like a broken record, but that's the most important thing. Now, if you own real estate with the decedent as a right to survivorship, you are automatically granted rights to that home. So whether you want to keep it or you want to sell it, that is transferred to you in that respect. Now, all the essential forms can be found on the family court site on mass.gov. You have to use the current original forms. You cannot use outdated forms because then you just have to start all over again. I can provide you with a list of the forms. The most popular for the petition for formal or informal are called MPC forms. Inventory, account, and petition for sale of real estate are the most common used forms that I've come across. So here's your checklist. These are the things you have to do in this order in order to complete probate correctly. You need to collect documents, secure the property, and contact a probate attorney ASAP. Informal probate can be fast, but it can still be tricky. Sometimes it's issued quickly when uncontested. Formal probate may take several months or longer if contested. I've seen it take over a year in some cases, depending on the size of the estate. And voluntary administration is for small personal property only estates. That is simplified and quicker because there's no real estate involved. Now, it's important, while you're here, while you're alive and can still talk, communicate openly with your family about documents and wishes. Now, I know that's a touchy subject. Nobody wants to go to their kids and say, you know what, I want you to bury me in this kind of a thing, and this is where my stuff is, but don't look at it now. And, I have to make sure that this is all taken care of. That's important. They want to hear it. Even though it might upset them to think about it, it's important that you communicate it to them yourself. It will mean a whole lot more. Also, tell them where everything is. Put all your accounts, deeds, key documents, anything, your will, anything, in one accessible place. Preferably a metal safe box. You can lock it, nobody can get into it, and your things will be safe. But don't forget to tell them where the key is or what the code is. Otherwise, you'll have a whole other ball of wax to deal with. Ask for support. Talk to your attorney. Elder care advisors, they're great as well. And trusted family members can help. Ask them to help. You've helped them your whole life. I'm sure they wouldn't mind helping you get things together. Consider the cost, the timing, and whether selling the real estate might be necessary or advisable. It's your home currently. Think about it. Do you want to pass it on to someone who's going to live in it, or who's going to treasure it, or do you want to pass it on to somebody who's going to sell it to the next investor who might tear it down? That's your choice, and you have the right to put that in your will and transfer that to your heirs. So the next steps will be to consider a consultation with a probate attorney. You have to confirm the path and the timeline depending on your own personal situation. Gather your key documents and multiple certified death certificates, originals, remember. Keep careful records and communicate with your family. They're your family. They love you. Tell them what's going on. This presentation is for general guidance only. I love to help people, but I am not an attorney, and it does not constitute legal advice. You need to consult a qualified Massachusetts probate attorney for advice that would be tailored to your situation. Thank you so much for attending. I hope this has helped you a little bit. And if you have any questions or you need answers to something, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I can help you with forms. I can help you with valuations of property. Everything you need, I'm here for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye-bye.